I'm 57 years old and I just blew up my business model to start over again. That might sound crazy, but I'm doing it for two reasons. One, frankly, I'm a little burned out. I've been doing sober coaching for the last several years, which is extremely rewarding, but it's also really emotionally taxing. It's also not scalable. I'm literally trading money for time. And two, because of all the tech layoffs. My husband is in tech and his entire team just got laid off. He's last man standing. I need to build a business that's scalable enough to replace his income in case he gets laid off too. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Arlena. I'm documenting my journey from a 57-year-old sober coach and podcaster to AI consultant. So here's the thing nobody's talking about when you're pivoting at 57. The stakes are completely different than when you're 30 years old. At my age, it feels like time is running out. Retirement is in our near future and it's rapidly approaching. I don't have another 37 years to build my nest egg. 57. That is 94. I seriously don't want to be working at 94. So I've been running my sober coaching practice for years now, and it works. The clients get great results. I'm good at it, but I do say them myself. They keep bumping into the same problem. As a solopreneur, there's so much to do and just never enough time to get it all done. It's so easy to work so hard that you just totally burned out. Trust me, I've been there multiple times. I actually stumbled on a brilliant system to overcome burnout, and I'm going to tell you about it in just a second. So about 6 months ago, I decided to learn how to use AI to increase my productivity in social media marketing and podcast production, course creation, client onboarding, client call summary notes. There's actually so much stuff to do, counting, taxes, all that stuff. And as I talked about it with my friends, they wanted me to help them use AI in their business. And that's when I realized this is actually the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. It's the thing that really lights me up. Now I kind of feel like a treasure hunter as I find ways to save time and make more money for my friends in their businesses. But listen, I'm not 30. I can't just pivot and figure it all out in the public for 3 years, right? Or can I? I mean, who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Here's my plan. I'm learning to use AI in my business. And as I do that, I'm helping my friends and documenting the whole process. Honestly, it's going to be messy. It'll be trial and error. I'm open to suggestions. So if you follow along, give me your feedback in the comments. But since I started using two AI tools for myself, Claude Cowork and Claude Code, I've been able to automate the majority of my workflows. So that's where I tell my friends to start. If you want to follow along in the series, I'll leave a link to Claude in the description if you haven't gotten it yet. As a side note, I do want to caution you, AI overwhelm is real. There's a million tempting videos and it's easy to fall down the AI rabbit hole. I can't stress this enough. If you don't want to waste hours or even weeks at a time, in my own personal case, my advice would be to think of a problem that you want to solve first, then look for the tool or the workflow to solve it. Also, pick one or two teachers and block out the rest. It'll just be noise. At this point, you're probably thinking, okay, but does this actually work? Do you have to be technical? The answer is yes and no. Yes, it works so well, it'll blow your mind once you see the potential in your own business. I was shocked. And also, no, you don't have to be technical. You'll hear this term vibe coding thrown around a lot. All it means is that you just talk to Claude, describe the outcome you want, and it figures out the how. Here's an actual example of how I worked with Claude in my business. So let's just take producing my podcast, for instance. I wrote out all of the repetitive steps in a Google Doc. I gave it to Claude and it did two things for me. First, it improved my overall process. I gave it access to my tech stack. So like Google Docs, Descript, Notion, Canva, GHL, and WordPress. So it could actually do the work for me. It creates a blog post, a carousel, an Instagram post. It edits the audio, creates a YouTube thumbnail, it uploads it to YouTube, sends out a newsletter every week, and creates video clips for social media marketing. What took me a couple of days now only takes me a couple of hours. It's pretty cool, right? If you want me to do another video on my whole podcast process, just leave a comment below. Now, this is the part about pivoting that nobody talks about. The reason most people my age don't pivot isn't because they don't want to, it's fear of imposter syndrome and looking bad to their friends and family. I totally get it. I've tried so many things myself. And every single time I get to this place where the scope would explode and I would just be working nonstop and eventually crash and burn. So this time I'm doing something different. This is a system I promised to tell you about a little earlier. I'm calling it the tiny experiment method. It's based on a book called Tiny Experiments by neuroscientist Anne-Laure Le Cunff. She states that only two things are necessary for a tiny experiment. One, define the action. Clearly identify the specific action or habit that you want to test. And the second is define the duration. It's a predetermined number of trials or a time frame of the experiment. So example, like 100 articles, 100 days, or one photo a day for a month, something like that. This is what it looked like for me. So define action was get 1% better at making video content to drive traffic to my AI audit website, arlena.ai. When I define the duration, it's going to be the number of trials, which for me is going to be 100 videos. But I'm just focusing on getting 1% better every time. So it's one piece of content, one small improvement. It's not a big launch. It's not a complicated marketing system. It's not even a 5-year plan. It's just, did this video get 1% better? Yes or no? Next experiment. When you break a pivot into experiments instead of projects, the overwhelm, frustration, and burnout just goes away because you're not putting so much pressure on yourself. You're just running a little test. Tests are low stakes. Tests are fast and tests are fun. And here's something else that I realized. At 57, I don't want to waste my energy grinding myself into burnout. But I do have an infinite energy for tiny fun experiments. And check this out. The experiments are already starting to pay off. Since I started to use Claude Cowork to automate my repetitive tasks and schedule things, I have a lot more time to sort of play with my tiny experiments. I keep a log in this notebook, and I'm just keeping a tally of all the actions that I take, all the learnings. And at the end of the week, I go back to review what I've accomplished and I celebrate. One more thing to note, this process is actually rewiring my nervous system. So in the past, if I didn't get results, I would feel discouraged. I'd start feeling bad about myself, like I'll never figure it out, and I'd burn out. Now it's totally changed how I feel because I'm not focused so much on the outcome, just on the experiment and what I learned. The goal is just to get 1% better. That's it. So the big question is, can I do this? Can I build a real business at 57? Can I pivot into something new, like using AI tools that I'm still learning? Honestly, I genuinely don't know. But that's why I'm making this vlog. There are so many brilliant people out there that are willing to help me, and by extension, help you too if you're thinking about pivoting. And I promise I'm going to share everything, not just the highlight reel, the actual experiments. I'll share the failures, the surprises, the outcomes. If you're someone who's ever thought, maybe it's too late for me, I want you to watch what happens. I'm not betting on perfect. I'm betting on tiny little experiments. I'm betting on myself. And let's just see what happens.